The consumer price index, often used as a measure of inflation, up 0.2% in the month of July, meeting expectations. The report out on Friday. But looking ahead, it's another big week for the economy coming up. Retail sales, consumer sentiment, industrial production, all due out this upcoming week. Each one of those an important gauge of the strength of this economy under President Trump. We did see Friday morning unexpected global events like currency crisis. A currency crisis in Turkey can certainly jolt the U.S. markets as well. Let me bring in my first guest right now, Chief Economist and Managing Director at Chase, Anthony Chan. Anthony, it's good to see you.
Great to see you, Maria.
First, give me your take on what's taken place in Turkey. Friday, obviously, we had a lot of volatility because of the Turkish lira plunging. Do you expect that to have a systemic impact on other emerging markets and the U.S.?
Well, Maria, so far it's contained, but obviously if it gets out of control, then it could spill over to other emerging markets. But so far, there are a lot of emerging markets that are doing quite well. We are seeing, in fact, the emerging markets in Asia still doing quite well in general. We see some possibility that Brazil is going to recover. So I don't think that at this stage we can really complain or worry too much about contagion, but certainly we hope this situation gets resolved soon.
So how would you characterize the backdrop right now for investing? Tell us what you see in terms of the big takeaways on the economy today.
Well, the big takeaways is that the concern that you've mentioned obviously is lowering 10-year yields to some extent, flattening the yield curve a little bit more. So that's a little bit of an issue. But corporate profits are coming in so strong. We're going to see at least 22% corporate profit growth for this year. Consumers just came off a 4% growth rate. We're going to get retail sales, as you mentioned, this coming week, and retail sales are very strong. Yes, car sales were a little bit weaker, but if you look at the component that tells you what's happening with consumer spending, I look for a robust 5 or 6% jump, which is the number that directly feeds into consumer spending. So consumer spending in the third quarter is going to get a good jump start with that retail sales numbers. And we are seeing the excitement with consumers. They're still pretty confident. I expect another pretty good number on consumer sentiment that's already at very high levels. And industrial production. We saw that manufacturing work week and, of course, manufacturing employment doing very, very well. So I look for industrial production to go up at least 0.4% and possibly even more in the latest month. So very good numbers coming up this week, Maria.
Yeah, I mean, we had a very good GDP number recently, 4.1% for economic growth. Do you see that continuing? What's your take on overall growth? Because the Atlanta Fed is looking at 5% growth. The president this week said he could see 5% economic growth in one of the upcoming quarters. Are you buying it?
Well, I think that right now the numbers are going to be stronger than trend. I'm looking for the third quarter to give you a number that's 3% or maybe even a little bit better. We know that inventory is subtracted in the second quarter by close to 1%, and we know that with such robust consumer spending, it's going to have to add at least 1% or more in the third quarter. So that's a really good tailwind for the economy in the third quarter, and consumers are pretty optimistic. So I see no reason why we can't see another 3% or more growth rate in the third quarter.
All right. And would you put new money to work in the stock market right here? I mean, you look at a company like Apple at $1 trillion valuation, what's gone on in terms of technology being the leadership, knowing that things will slow down. You've got some issues around social media. So we're just wondering about valuations. Do you like this market here?
Absolutely like it, and I'll tell you why. We're going to see bumps along the way. We may even see corrections along the way. But when people talk about peak earnings, I say 22% growth this year. We're looking for 7.5% to 8% growth next year for the S&P 500 corporate profit growth.
We'll be watching. Anthony, good to see you as always. Thanks so much.